There are moments in life when one mistake feels like the end of everything, but sometimes that same moment becomes the beginning of who you were meant to be. This is the story of a man who thought he was invisible, until he discovered the courage to hear his own voice. Ethan, 37 years old, lived in a small Midwestern town where cornfields stretched for miles and life moved quietly. He worked at a small grocery store owned by Mr. Harris and had done so for nearly 10 years. Ethan was gentle, hardworking, and kind, but everyone knew one thing about him: he spoke so softly that most people could barely hear him. Customers often had to lean close just to catch a word, and many assumed he was painfully shy or simply lacked confidence. Ethan heard the whispers, the jokes, the comments, but he never reacted. He wasn't angry. He was afraid of saying something wrong, afraid of annoying someone, afraid of being judged. That fear kept him small, almost invisible, tucked behind the counter like a shadow. One late autumn morning, Mr. Harris told Ethan he needed to travel to Chicago for 3 days to restock supplies. During that time, Ethan would manage the store on his own. Ethan nodded, but anxiety filled his stomach. He had never been trusted with such responsibility before, and the pressure felt overwhelming. On the first morning alone, a regular customer came in for engine oil. Ethan's hand shook as he poured, and he measured the amount wrong. The man grew irritated, questioning how Ethan could mess up such a simple task. Ethan tried to apologize, but his voice disappeared, and he stood frozen. Later, a woman came to return a damaged box of cereal. Ethan couldn't figure out what to do, and she left frustrated, complaining about his inability to communicate. News spread through the small town quickly. Ethan was running the store, and many predicted things would go wrong. That afternoon, a stranger walked in. He spoke warmly, smiled constantly, and acted overly friendly. Ethan, wanting to be polite and avoid conflict, trusted him instantly. Within minutes, the stranger tricked him into giving away 2 valuable bags of goods without paying. When Ethan realized the deception, the man was already gone. When Mr. Harris returned, he noticed the missing inventory immediately. After hearing Ethan's halting explanation, disappointment washed over his face. He said Ethan had ruined everything and wasn't capable of handling responsibility. The words struck Ethan deeply. Feeling worthless, he left the store without looking back, not knowing where to go. Ethan walked to the empty field behind the old high school, his quiet refuge during difficult times. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange, but Ethan felt no comfort in its beauty. He sat on a worn bench and whispered that maybe everyone had been right about him. Maybe he really did fail at everything. A calm voice spoke behind him. It was Mr. Grant, a retired teacher, known throughout the town for his wisdom and kindness. He spotted Ethan sitting alone and asked what had happened. Ethan explained everything: his mistakes, his fear, his shame. Mr. Grant listened without judgment. When Ethan finished, he said that confidence wasn't something people were born with. It was something built through trying, failing, and trying again. He invited Ethan to visit him the next morning for a small challenge that could change how he saw himself. The next day, Mr. Grant told Ethan to walk down Main Street and ask 5 people 3 simple questions about their work. To Ethan, who feared conversations, it felt like an enormous task, but he agreed to try. The first person ignored him. The second told him to speak louder. He considered giving up, but then met a friendly auto shop owner who happily answered every question and chatted with him for several minutes. That moment warmed something inside Ethan. By the end of the day, he had completed the task and felt a shift within himself. The following day, Mr. Grant gave him another challenge. Go to the elementary school during pickup time, help direct parents, and say something kind to each one. Ethan's voice trembled, but each phrase, "drive safe," "have a great afternoon," "you're doing great," became clearer. Parents smiled. A child waved at him. Ethan felt noticed, and for the first time in a long while, he felt useful. When Mr. Grant sensed Ethan was ready, he gave him the hardest task of all: return to Mr. Harris and ask for another chance. The thought terrified Ethan, but he knew avoiding it wouldn't change anything. He walked back into the store, stood straighter than usual, and told Mr. Harris he wanted to learn from his mistakes and hoped for an opportunity to try again. Mr. Harris looked surprised. This wasn't the Ethan he knew. After a pause, he agreed. Over the next few weeks, Ethan changed more than anyone expected. He spoke more clearly, handled customers with confidence, solved problems quickly, and stopped allowing others to take advantage of him. People in the town noticed the difference and complimented him. He no longer hid behind the counter. He stood tall, present, and capable. One afternoon, a businessman from Kansas walked into the store. After watching Ethan manage the shop smoothly, he asked whether Ethan was the owner. Ethan smiled gently and said he wasn't, at least. Not yet, but maybe one day. And for the first time, he believed the words coming out of his own mouth. Confidence didn't arrive in one loud moment. It didn't come from being perfect. It came from small steps repeated bravely over time. Ethan had taken those steps, and they had transformed his life. Anyone could do the same, even someone who once thought they were invisible.